My guest today is filmmaker and actor Andrew Vogel and co-founder of VP Independent. Now, in 2023, the company released the action thriller The Dirty South, starring Willa Holland, Shane West, and Dermot Mulroney, and which won Best Cinematography at NYC's Chelsea Film Festival and released worldwide via Cineverse, earning praise from MovieWeb and the New York Times. Andrew's recent projects include the comedy thriller Dead Giveaway, winner of Best Chemistry at the Philadelphia Film Festival, and his high concept psychological horror Herman, both set for 2025 release. Now, as an actor, Andrew has appeared in A Walk in the Woods with Robert Redford and Nick Nolte, and CBS's Under the Dome, ABC's The Astronaut Wives Club, and the box office sleeper God's Not Dead. Now, Andrew is here to talk about his newest film, Herman, a film that asks the questions: how do we face the inner demons that we don't even fully recognize? And will the truth really set us free? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome filmmaker and actor Andrew Vogel and his new psychological thriller feature film, Herman, to the show. Welcome, Andrew.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, this is a true psychological thriller. So, where did the idea come from to create such a multifaceted story?
My brother and I actually came up with the concept about a year before we started filming it. We were sort of trying to come up with ideas. We're always trying to come up with producible ideas, contained ideas that can be made and that we can go out and shoot. But this one actually stemmed from a quote. And the quote is in the beginning of the film, but it's a Joseph Campbell quote. And it's the psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims with delight. And basically, it's sort of that line between mysticism and psychosis that we're exploring throughout this film. So that's sort of how it originated and what we were out to explore. And the entire story was based around that idea of this guy who's sort of, teetering on that line of going crazy and losing his mind while also maybe finding himself.
Well, yeah, but also too, which I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to give any spoilers out there with Herman, but he is dealing a bit with his past, isn't he?
Absolutely. No, that's a huge part of it is he's isolated and living in this cabin by himself and facing his inner demons that he's done a good job at hiding for many years, but now on this day he's being forced to reckon with his past in a number of ways.
Well, I read a line in your press kit, and it said that living with oneself in the absence of distractions. Many believe that that would be a good thing, but I find that a lack of social interaction is detrimental to one's mental health. And I could see that in this film because sometimes one's worst friend is their own mind.
100%. I mean, that nails it. That nails sort of the heart of what we're exploring in this film is this man who's losing his mind because he's living alone in isolation and is forced to. All he has is his own thoughts and his own writings and his own mind. So he's been faced with this dark demon that he can't even recognize as his own self. And but what's interesting to me about that is it also leaves him in a place where he could discover himself and be forced to face those inner demons. So yes, it is what causes him to sort of lose his mind in a sense, but it also is what could potentially lead to him finding himself and being forced to face those demons. Which maybe there's light at the other side of that, maybe not, but that's what we explore.
You know, with Herman being someone that has spent decades alone, um, and part of that living alone is really trying to bury his guilt.
Yeah. So without giving too much away about the
Yeah.
film, because there's a potentially a larger reason why he's living alone. But from that perspective, yes, I think he's searching for himself, and I don't think it's giving anything away to say that he's still wrapped up in the death of his wife, which happened many years ago. So he's um, working through that in a number of ways. And I think he's there alone to work through that in one sense, and is forcing himself. She was a spiritual person, and he knows that. And he never was when he was younger, and now he's in a place where he's sort of trying to capture that aspect of who she was, by seeing if he can find that in himself. So he's on a sort of spiritual journey in a way, while also sort of hiding.
Yeah, there was because we don't really see it till later into the film, and I'm not going to give too much away, but he was really an intellectual. And and he mentions in the beginning, towards the beginning of the film, where he says he never believed in God, but his wife did.
Exactly.
But deep down, deep down inside, he wants to believe, even by opening up the Bible to read it. And when I saw that scene, it's the first scene, it really shows for possibly millions of people that type of simple struggle is real in many today, correct?
Oh, 100%. And that really is the heart of the film, is his struggle with spirituality, which through that is his struggle to face his own inner demons. It's kind of hand in hand. But right, his wife was religious, and he never was. And we say in a flashback later that he didn't believe. He never went to church with her. And but so now he's sort of trying to discover that spiritual aspect of what maybe she had known and what made her so special. And he's saying, well, maybe I'll try that out. And now that I'm a broken old man living in shame and hiding, let me see if I can discover that out here alone in the woods.
Yeah, because the first time he opens up the Bible, it's a very great scene. And when I see that, you don't really see that happening in a lot of films today, but it's really part of our world. A lot of people don't realize that even though we live in a physical world, there is a spiritual side to everything that is happening around us. And you really you bring it in, not in your face kind of way. Even when the nuns show up, there is a subtle way in which Sister Josephine gets her point across. And I just loved her.
Thanks. Yeah, she's great. That's Sony. Yeah, she did a tremendous job, and was really great to work with. But no, I love the way you're putting it. I think you're nailing so much of the heart and soul of this, is that spiritual aspect, and his search for God, his search for meaning, and having to battle his own demons in order to hopefully get there, in order to even try to get there. Um, so yeah, that's absolutely a
Well,
big part of it.
when both of the nuns showed up, and he was talking to the younger one, um, Herman was a bit standoffish. He really wished they weren't there,
Right.
but the dialogue that comes from Sister Josephine, it's short and it's to the point. And in a weird way, it's almost like he found a bit of comfort only in the fact that he actually agreed with her, because she was spiritually attuned to whatever the presence was in the house. And at least he felt like, okay, I've got an ally.
That's exactly right. Yeah, she sort of represents that awareness that he's seeking. She's fully aware of the entire situation, even more so than he is. And so Sister Josephine really is that sort of almost the conscious of the film. And yeah, she's speaking the truth, only the truth. That's all she ever speaks. And he recognizes that. And he's like, but that's scary to him, and especially when she first shows up. That truth means, oh wait, the darkness is after me. That's what the truth means at first.
Yeah,
And
and I
he's
think, and even for Herman, I was wondering if he was thinking, does she know? Even though she mentioned the darkness, part of him was he didn't want. what he was dealing with, thinking about his wife. It's almost like he didn't want to be outed in that way.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Right. Does she know more than she's letting on? Does she know his own sins? I think is all wrapped up in that character and why it's scary and intriguing for him all at the same time.
Well, do you believe that there are people who can discern spirits? And I'm not talking about mediums.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm open to a lot of things. From a personal standpoint, I like to explore all of that. Put it that way. I like to explore those topics, and those are all of high interest to me. And that was a big part of this film. This was a platform or a medium, I should say, no pun intended, to explore those different ideas. And like you said, Sister Mary is sort of she's the goodness that he had in his wife that is reminding Herman of his wife. Sister Mary is so that's very uncomfortable at first, and he wants to be alone and he wants his space, so he's pushing her away, and she's a little too close for comfort.
Well, let me ask you this because you have two nuns, one's white, one's black. Was that done on purpose?
As far as the race, no, not necessarily. I mean, uh, I think we were hoping for a diverse cast, but at the end of the day, we were trying to find the best people for the parts. And but yeah, so Sister Mary is Suzanne Tony Petrangelo, who's my partner in VP Independent, and yeah, when we found Sony Teresa Montgomery, who plays Sister Josephine, we were just it was an obvious fit, and we knew she was perfect.
Oh, she was absolutely perfect for that part. I mean, every time she entered a scene, you're just sitting there waiting to hear what she has to say next. Because she has
Totally.
that presence. She brought that presence about her character.
Yeah, she's gonna really appreciate you saying that, and I totally agree. She really, she's sort of the beating heart of that aspect of the film, the consciousness of it, and the truth, and the spiritual, and also the eerie darkness. She kind of embodies all of that.
So, how did you handle, or how challenging was it to handle the subject of the thought of suicide?
Yeah, that was something we wanted to handle delicately, and also that was handled, I would say, in the script. That was always a part of the makeup. The DNA of the project was someone who was on the verge of giving up, and it wasn't so much he was going to kill himself. Like that wasn't even the way we were speaking about it necessarily. It was someone who was on the verge of giving up, and that was his method of giving up was by the noose in this case. But yeah, we wanted to show how desperate he really was to escape this darkness, this dark cloud that's hanging over him.
You know, I found it interesting in the film where he left the noose up the whole time. And so, and being that the fact that it was upstairs, and it's kind of like I guess a metaphor of it's hanging over his head, and he wants to get rid of the pain, the guilt, the anguish that he's been living with, but he doesn't really, he truly, from what I figure, he doesn't really want to go that route. I
I
think
know.
he's looking for someone to, the thing, I've done so many interviews on suicide, and I believe deep down people just want someone to understand the anguish or the darkness that they're dealing with, and they're just wanting someone to listen, and hopefully it's the right person that not only will listen but pull them away from the edge.
Absolutely. I love that you say it's hanging over his head. And logistically, by the way, just a quick aside, that wasn't planned. That was the house that we found, and we realized how perfect it was metaphorically. And that had that interior window where we could actually see the looming presence of the news throughout the film. So that actually worked out because of the location. So that was a pretty cool thing that worked out. Um,
Well, where was the location of the house?
it was in Wrightwood, which is about an hour outside of LA. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
boy, that must have been like finding a diamond in the rough to find an interior like that kind of gave you extra elements to tell the story.
It truly was. It was something we would have never even thought to incorporate, was an interior window with a noose hanging in it. But it was something he could look up at and reference multiple times throughout the film. So that was a pretty cool element.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, we lived in this garage apartment, and they had interior windows, which is really odd to see. So you
Right.
would open up the window, and you're still looking inside the house because still
Exactly.
inside the house. So that's a very rare find.
I know. Yeah, we were pretty blown away at how perfect this house. I mean, we rewrote some scenes because of how amazing it was to incorporate that interior window and the looming noose.
Yeah, you had you had the first young man arrive, and he he was almost a bit hard to figure out. Um,
James.
maybe a bit arrogant.
Hmm.
Would that be correct?
Absolutely. He's immediately sort of an antagonistic force while also being somewhat comedic. But right, he immediately is at opposed against Herman, and he wants, and then he's flirting with Sister Mary. It's really awkward and strange, and it's making Herman upset, and Herman wants him out. So immediately they're at odds, and yeah, that was a big part of it. And I won't say
Oh,
what he represents, but everybody represents elements of Herman's past.
yeah, yeah. My light bulb just went off here because of the fact that Herman was getting upset because the situation with the first young man arriving and then talking to Sister Mary, it brought him back to his time with his wife.
100%.
And so yeah, I love the way the storylines intertwine within this film. And the thing that I love about this film, Herman, is I love heavily character driven films. And you have done something with this film that I wish other filmmakers would learn, especially when they feel that they're going to graduate to doing a feature film. When it comes to character driven films on the independent side, many times there's that slow burn.
Mm.
It's the character building is far too slow. And then sometimes the greatest part of the movie is probably like the last 20 minutes. But you have to drag yourself through the first part. With Herman, you didn't do that to the audiences, which is what I loved, because with each character that enters their scene, you automatically allow us to understand enough of the character to where we know almost why they're there.
Mm.
So, and there's enough dialogue going on where the audience, we're paying attention, we're listening, we're seeing what's going on. We don't know what's going to happen, where the twist is going to be, but it doesn't drag. It moves along at such a wonderful pace. I mean, and for a film that's an hour 23, I just wish more filmmakers would kind of cap their movies at about 90 minutes because capture the audience, entertain them, whatever the genre is going to be, and leave it at that. And your whole team did that perfectly with this film.
Wow, that's a great compliment. I appreciate that. It was a big part of the pacing was always sort of built into the structure, and having someone arrive, even down to a logistical, sort of thinking about it, was having someone arrive every 10 minutes or so and keeping the pace moving, and just and yeah, having enough meat on the bone with each character where they had their own goals and motives and were connected to him. Ultimately, of course, everyone's connected to him. But yeah, thanks for saying that.
Well, there's a few scenes, and I think it's more of camera movement where, for me, looking at it from the audience point of view, uh, it's almost like we see Sister Josephine almost disappear. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, where is she? What is she doing? Because she is such a strong force that even when, and I'm not going to give anything away, but when the second young man arrived, you know, Herman wasn't happy, but that's when Sister Josephine talked about the darkness, and Herman looks at that guy going, "You've been warned."
Yeah, right. I know Sister Josephine knew it was coming the whole time, and then she's like at most in her element when the second guy arrives. Um, she saw it coming, and it's like, yeah, we knew this was coming. Here we are.
Yeah, and because when I saw the look on Herman's face, and I thought Colin Ward was the perfect actor to play Herman, but when I
Right?
saw the look on his face, immediately I was like, yeah, you finally have someone that agrees with you, and in a way almost became this unexpected ally in the midst of the scenes with the second young man.
Absolutely. Yeah. She knew something, and she was the only one saying the truth at that point that Herman knew, and he was like, hey, nobody's listening. Listen to her. She's saying exactly what's happening here, and Herman knew.
That's it. Well, one of the most powerful lines in the film was, "The truth always comes out, no matter how deep we bury it." And because when I heard the line, the first thought that came to my mind was, the light always exposes the darkness.
Mm,
Because eventually Herman can spend all those years alone, but eventually it's going to come out one way or another. And
that's it.
I love the way that you just portray all of that in this film.
With the light exposing the darkness, and it's interesting you say that because when he is transported into that sort of alternate space, we chose that brighter option because it was like a light space that would reveal his inner darkness. So that was all sort of built in. Versus, we could have done a black void, but I thought it was a better contrast and better metaphorically for that reason.
Well, I like the fact that you used those scenes where it's much brighter, it's wider, I guess we could call it. And because when you watch Herman in those scenes, and the way that you create this little distant shadow, this scene, and it forces Herman, he has to confront, because there's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to grab. You're in the midst of this area where the focal point is straight ahead. You look side to side and there's nothing there. There's nothing to gravitate to. There's nothing to use as an excuse and try to avoid the situation that you're faced with. So I think those scenes were absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Right. It was just him and the truth was represented physically in that space. Manifested in the way it was with. I guess I won't say too much. Well, it's in the poster with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
woman with.
yeah. I'm not gonna give that part away, but
Yeah.
uh, with the scenes, the flashback scenes between Herman and his wife, those were very, very powerful, because you show a difference between someone who is obsessive over another, which in their mind, that's their idea of showing love and protection, but being over obsessive over someone where you're really kind of choking the love out of them, and not, and that's
Suffocating
the,
him.
ladies and gentlemen, that's not part of this film, but versus actually loving them, because his wife loved him,
Hmm.
but his way to show love was a way in which you actually kill it.
Absolutely, and that was an important sort of grounding element to the film, was showing those scenes, which sort of offered a grounding component to the other sort of more exotic, other dimensional type world we were in, but also showcasing, right, why did this incident all happen, and showcasing that he was, trying to control her in a sense, and also maybe had a propensity towards a psychotic nature at an earlier age that was, um, enlivened by what he went through. Uh, that what came next, essentially. But right, exactly. That was a big part of the film, was showing their relationship, and why it all went down the way it did.
Well, and the possessiveness is actually an insecurity, and he actually chased the very thing away that he felt that he was actually showing, but that's where people completely mess it up. So those scenes on the flashback, they're extremely powerful in this film. But I'm not going to give it away, but there was something I noticed, because it's never vocalized in this film, but his profession played a part into this.
Absolutely, right. He's as
I
it actually says in the very beginning, if you look at the plaque on his wall, it's like achievement in excellence, Herman D. Maxwell, is his name. Uh, and right, he's a professor in philosophy, and right, he's so focused on his work that he's not paying enough attention to her, while also still being overbearing with her, and that ultimately led to where it led, and pushed her away.
Yeah, yeah. Again, those scenes are very, very powerful. Now, how did you cast this film? Because I know you starred in it. I know Suzanne starred in it. And again, I love actor Colin Ward. So how did all that happen?
Right. So Colin playing Herman, Alex James, who played James, and Sony and Lawson, who played Alice. They were all totally audition based, and we went through several rounds of auditions to find the people that stood out. Did the typical casting process, I guess, but for each one of these, in particular, Colin, he was sort of the only option, and because he was that good, because he separated himself that much. Like, I still remember, how amazed we were at his ability to go from this sort of innocent, broken man to this monster, and he could show both sides on a flip of a dime, and so that was immediately grabbed us, and I can't imagine someone else doing it. Really, he was really impressive.
Yeah, he was. And I was watching scenes, because what I love, what impresses me about an actor is when the scene only contains them. They have
Hmm.
nothing to play off of. There's not another character in the scene with them. They're having to act by
Hmm.
themselves. They have to pull out whatever the scene calls for. And Colin did it to perfection.
I completely agree. He'll love hearing that too. He's always asking me how is his performance being received. I'm like, I'm telling you, everybody loves it. um, but yeah, he was. I thought he was excellent, and like you said, he could do a lot with a little in terms of being the only one in the scene.
Yeah, I thought, one of my favorite scenes in the film was towards the end, where he went back and he picked up the Bible again. And I'm just going
Hmm.
to leave it at that. And I just love that scene so much, because in a way he kind of surrendered a bit. And sometimes it just takes that little bit of surrender for the light to finally come through.
That's it. Sums it up. It truly does. I mean, that's really what it is him going through this whole really intense process to find that glimmer of light that allows him to go on another day.
Well, how did you handle the special effects?
That was an interesting process. That was something we had in the script and didn't quite realize how hard it was going to be to find the right team to pull that off. It was a cloud volumetrics, which I wasn't even familiar with that term before, and so it was a specialty kind of VFX on top of it being these VFX elements we needed. So, but we found this team who just was incredible and showed us some samples, of what they could do with this, and it was immediately perfect. And we created this sort of cloud entity that sort of represented his guilt, I guess you could say. And but no, they were really impressive. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say his name because technically he works for a bigger company, but,
No, no, that
but
that that's fine. That's fine. I
yeah.
mean, was it part green screen
Oh, in terms
situation?
of that, so yeah, so we shot on a white cycle. One of our partners is a company called Cinematography, who are friends and colleagues, and they have a white cyc studio, and so we shot that, and then in VFX we were able to bring them further apart. So everything was a lot closer together, and then we spread everything apart. So that was one element of it, and then for the more intense shots where there's a lot more smoke and a lot more of the monster, quote unquote, um, we did a lot of green screen for that. And yeah, we actually brought in a stunt team and had Colin, who we were going to have him do we had a stunt double there for him, but Colin said he wanted to do it, so we actually rigged Colin in the full gear, and he elevated in the air, 7 feet or so. And yeah, and Colin's, he was a trooper. And but that made the scene extra special when you could really see his face clearly when he's elevated like that.
Well, when you're directing an actor for that particular type of scene, what kind of beats did you give him?
Yeah, so I tried to explain what the entity would be doing as much as possible. Like the entity's wrapping you up. It's suffocating your body like a snake wrapping around you. So I would say things like that. Like there's a snake coiling around your body. So how do you try to get out of that? And then there was one part where, it's like it stabs him through the back almost. So that was another beat I gave him, was that it would actually, pretend there's a tentacle stabbing you through the back, and it's you know. So it's stuff like that. Yeah,
So how long did it take to film those scenes?
we shot this movie at a very fast, I should say. So that was all one day. Was the entire everything you see on the white site was all one day,
Really? Even when he was walking through the white areas, all that was shot in one day.
all one day. Two cameras in one day. Yeah,
So
yeah.
how long was the total film shoot for the whole movie?
We shot this film in 5.5 days.
5.5 days on
I
a
know it's
feature film?
I know it's crazy. That was sort of all part of our game plan, was to maximize the efficiency. And so we did a lot of rehearsal. We did pre-lighting. We did multiple cameras. We did 3 cameras some days, mostly 2. But yeah, that was always a big part of it, was how do we keep the quality bar where we need it to be, and also maximize efficiency.
5.5 days. That sounds like you were shooting a short film.
I know. Yeah, we were shooting. It was a lot of one take wonders, but it was rehearsed, and yeah, it
Well,
was
the great thing
also.
is, you had one, you only really had what, two locations? Well, three,
It
which
was
I'm not going to bring up. I don't want to give that
Yeah, it was
away.
it was 4 technically, because we had 2 different flashback locations, and then we had the white site, the studio where a lot of the other dimension was, and then the cabin. The cabin was the main location that we spent the most time at.
So you have shown this film at film festivals. What's been the audience's reaction to it?
So not we haven't shown this to too many people, but we yeah, so it'll be we'll start getting more reactions when it comes out. But we have done a test screening. We have another premiere coming up at the end of this month, along around the same time that it actually releases. But the response has been good. It's my favorite responses are the ones that leave people thinking and are thinking about who he is, and is this cyclical, and all the thing, what is the nature of it all, and what he needed to overcome, and just the meaning of it all is what's that's the types of conversations that are interesting to me, and I really appreciate when it leaves people thinking and curious about what happened, and why it happened, and kind of uh, it's an onion, peeling off the layers of the different characters, all the way to the core of what this is and who Herman is.
Yeah, the thing I love about this film is that the whole storyline is relatable. And there are elements in this film I think that the audience will take with them because there's a few life lessons kind of hidden in this film, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope it's, not preachy in any way, but for us it was exploring those topics. So will the truth set you free, for example, and exploring topic of someone bearing their truth, and what if someone buried a pain so deep that it manifested in a way that they couldn't even recognize it for what it is anymore, and it was just a monster for them. So that's really the heart of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So when in December does Herman debut?
So December 2nd is the date right now that it should be. That could change, but that's the plan right now. Is December 2nd for it to be available to rent or buy through Amazon Prime, and then it'll go to streamers. But we're still waiting to see which platforms it'll end up on. But yeah, December 2nd, you should be able to rent or buy it through Amazon Prime.
Oh, fantastic. So do you have anything new coming up?
So right now, so we have a few things. We have another horror that we are sort of a yeah, it's a horror that we shot a proof of concept for, that we're shopping around right now, and then we have I'm well, we've developed a slate of 5 films that can be sort of done in this same efficient production model and maintain the high quality. So we're working on getting that financed, and then trying to go into production on 5 films over the next couple of years is our goal of a similar type of production style.
Wow. I mean, we have seen, and of course, there's very few films that still do it today. Probably anything with Christopher Nolan's going to take 6 months. But, you know, mostly for with all the films that we see streaming wise, they're usually shot what, in less than 28 days?
Yeah, and I mean, even The Dirty South, we shot that in 17 days, which was a bit higher budget and had some name talent in it. So in our experience, it's always relatively fast, but most indies, I would say, are around the 20-25 days, somewhere up in there. But the ones we've done have been even shorter than that.
So streamlining overall production, but still keeping the quality high is the overall goal. And what would you gain? So what do you actually gain by, you're able to cut production time down, but still deliver a quality product? What's the biggest gain there?
The biggest gain is that you can make a quality film for much less money. So that's the biggest gain. So we're trying to make it. It's indie film investment is a tough racket, and it can be sort of a crapshoot and for investors. So we're trying to mitigate that risk as much as possible and keep the budgets as tight as possible, and give them a promising return on their investment by and a more reliable return on their investment.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense because this industry is definitely based on money from funding to profit. So whatever you have to
Right.
do, but you and your team pulled off an incredible miracle with this film, Herman, because it is a
Thanks so
high
much.
quality, heavily character driven film. And ladies and gentlemen, when this film comes out in December, make sure you watch Herman. You're going to love the film just like I did because Herman is a psychological thriller. It's about a man confronting the extremes of his own mind. Living in isolation in the woods, he searches for freedom from himself, only to find that the truths he has buried cannot stay hidden. But they resurface, manifesting in strange and unsettling ways, forcing him to confront the weight of guilt as he has tried to escape. But this film is inspired by the idea echoed in Joseph Campbell's work that the line between mysticism and madness is often perilously thin. And in Herman's journey, well, the film explores whether the truth can set him free or if the act of uncovering it is itself a form of surrender. I can tell you this film keeps you glued to your seat while you slowly see Herman's life or demons unravel. Herman is a heavily character-driven film, and the dialogue is focused and poignant in every single scene in this film. And in this age where independent filmmakers want to do the slow burn of storytelling, well, Herman doesn't drag the story out. It gets to the point, but that's also extremely entertaining to the audience. It moves freely from scene to scene, and you're waiting to see what will happen next. Add in a couple of nuns, one in particular who is so spiritually in tune, you really want to see more of her. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers away here, but there are surprises that await you, and that makes for great storytelling, and in this case, a great film. Andrew, I want to thank you so much for sharing Herman with me today.
This has been such a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. And again, ladies and gentlemen, Herman debuts online and streaming in the month of December. So be on the lookout for it. It is a film you want to bookmark and you want to watch this incredible film. You're going to love it just like I do. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and yes, you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. And remember, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.